We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Have you ever felt lonely, even when you're surrounded by people? Like the feeling of standing in a crowded coffee shop or going to Costco, passing familiar faces in your neighborhood, or exchanging nods with people at the gym, but never really connecting. As men, we're told to be strong and independent and self-sufficient, but what's the cost? The truth is, millions of men are suffering in silence. And we weren't meant to do life alone. Yet somewhere along the way, we stopped making friends. I know I did. Maybe that's true for you too. Today, I'm talking with Mark Greene about something so simple, yet so radical, it's changing lives, walking and talking. Mark is an author, an advocate, a man who saw his own isolation and decided to do something about it. He's a Mankind Project brother as well. So he knows what it's like to be with other men in containers, in spaces, in safety. But instead of waiting for the kind of connection that he was looking for, he built something, literally one step at a time. His Walking, Talking Men initiative is spreading across the country, and it's helping men rediscover friendship in a very natural way. This is about real human connection, not just networking, not small talk, but actual friendship. And trust me, I think after this conversation, you'll probably want to grab your sneakers and start your own walk. I know I do. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Mankind Podcast. Everybody, it's Boysen Hodgson with the Mankind Podcast. Happy Friday for me. It's probably not that for you, but who knows? I get to hang out with Mark Greene today, one of my favorite people in the world who, and Mark doesn't know this, but in every networking conversation that I have, Mark Greene is usually my go-to name drop. Do you know Mark Greene? Have you heard about Mark Greene? Have you read any of Mark Greene's stuff? I got to introduce you to Mark Greene. You need to know Mark Greene. Mark, hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Boysen.
Mark is a multiple published author. Mark is friends with some of the coolest people in the world, and Mark has been doing this work at remaking manhood, the intersection of healthy masculinity and breaking down dominance-based masculinity, breaking the man box. And he is always beautiful about giving credit where credit is due to men like Paul Kivel and other organizations when he talks about breaking down dominance-based masculinity. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about taking a walk.
Mm-hmm. Has a little bit of a Mr. Rogers Neighborhood feel to it, doesn't it? We're going to take a walk today.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So
terrifying.
Mark, so tell us about this idea, this thing that you are doing now that, and I'm sure you're going to give credit out there, but tell us about Walking, Talking Men.
Well, a few years ago, I ran across a organization in Great Britain called Men Walking and Talking. I think it's .net. I don't know, something. Anyway, you can find them. And I thought, well, there's an idea. Men getting together and walking and talking about what's going on for them. And then late in November of 2024, I was talking to my friend, Mark Weidman. And when I say my friend, I mean, he's a guy who lives in my neighborhood, and my son and his went to school together. They're both in college now. Back then, he and I started having coffee, and we, for one reason or another, been having coffee ever since. Once a week, we sit together and we talk. And at some point, and I don't know if it's just came naturally to Mark or if it evolved or emerged out of those constant ongoing conversations, but we began talking about what was going on for us, and sometimes we'd talk about lighthearted stuff. Sometimes I'd show up and say, I'm crashing today and I don't even know why.
Yeah.
And he would hold space for me and I would hold it for him. And we just sit there, people walking by on the street, drinking our coffee. We had, we had a period there a while back where it was really cold and terrifying. But there was still a lot of COVID stuff going on. So we were sitting outside a place called Manny Mart. We would just turn over a couple of their like cartons and sit on them. And people would go by it and you could tell they were like, those guys,
Are they?
what are they, and then they would realize, oh, why are they sitting out here? And we would just chat and hang out, But anyway, we've frequented a lot of the coffee shops, and over the course of time, I realized, this friendship I had with Mark was my friendship, my one friendship. And I thought, I want to go ahead and try that walking, talking men thing. So we came up with that name, and I said to Mark in late November, I said, I'm thinking about doing this thing, but I don't know, man. It feels weird. It feels like I don't know. A bunch of strange guys. I don't know what, And Mark said, no, we have to do it. We have to do this thing. So that one friendship gave me the support to go ahead and post on Reddit, Upper West Side, and I just said, we're starting this thing up, and this is a chance for men to sort of connect and talk about what's going on for us in a world that doesn't really allow for that. And I gave some data about social isolation for men and the impact on our health and mental well-being. And then I said, we're going to try this. So send me an email if you're interested. And I got a number of emails. I got 14, 15 emails from men.
Yeah.
And some of the men who emailed me said, I've been talking to my wife about this. I've been talking about this for a while, and making friends is hard. The situations never really quite allow for it. And those guys, when they showed up, they already understood the assignment. They really knew why they were there. So we ended up, out of those 15 men or so, we ended up with 6 or 7 guys who come regularly. We walk. Some of them are in their 30s. They got young kids. Some of them are, 50s. Some of them are my age. But the key to this is that I didn't start a walk with some people I already knew.
Yeah.
I started a walk with guys who live within half a mile of me, who I've never met and would never have met, would not know today. And I was telling you before we started recording, one of the guys that came and was really all in, his last name is Trustman, Trustman. And I thought, okay, let's do that, So that's how it started. And it's now happening in Los Angeles, and another guy has started a walk in Santa Barbara. And there's some others that are starting up in various places. But I tell anybody who is interested in this, I have one reason to do this. I want some men who are my friends in my own neighborhood.
Locally. You and I know each other in part because of this men's work thing. And I think that maybe a place to go in the conversation first is like distinctions, right? You and I've been sitting in men's groups for over 20 years now and doing this work. And yet, there's some level of overcomplicating stuff that I've done. So talk about distinctions.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. These are two completely different undertakings for two completely different purposes.
There you go.
And as a Mankind Project brother, I watched all of the change in my life spool out of my weekend that I did. And I've written about it, talked about it, and so on and so forth. And I've made friendships with you and with other men that are informed by the fact that before I did that weekend, I really didn't trust men. I didn't like men. And I can't tell you how many men in the work that I do and the conversations I have that say things to me like, most of my friends are women, or, they'll say something which just says that this is a strangely disconnected,
Yeah.
loss of friendship world we're all in.
Yeah.
And because of that, the Mankind Project made me face my own story and tell it to a group of men when I was on the carpet
Yeah.
weeping, and then try and understand what that meant in my life. And so in the years since then,
Yep.
whatever else happened, I now meet men. And one of the things I think is, brother, you're beautiful. The fact that you're on your feet at all, given all the weird cultural that we have to deal with, we're all walking miracles, women, non-binary
Nice.
folks
Thank you.
included. But the men I meet now, I have this sense of like joy in just look at you, look at this human being in front of me. And that came out of the MKP work.
Yeah.
But men's work is a specific thing with a specific purpose and a structure, and it has a cost of entry, right?
Yes.
It's a challenge to get men to sign up and show up and do the work and all of that. And you know this because you tried to get me to come to the weekend for a year, 2 years, I don't even know, and I was very resistant. But this other thing,
Yeah.
Walking Talking Men, has no cost of entry. The organization that I'm attempting to make, I want it to be as flat as a sheet of paper. So any man who wants to start a walk, that's his walk in his city, in his neighborhood, for his group of friends.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to check in with me. I'm not, I don't have an agenda. We have some rules that we
Yes.
made.
Published.
And
WalkingTalkingMen.org.
yeah, you can go there, and it's a very simple structure. We say things like no politics, please, not for these walks. We say use I statements. We say listen without judgment, and we say this stuff is private, right? It stays with the group. And the effort here is to get men just to show up and talk about what's going on for us. And it's not mandatory. You want to talk about anime? I'll talk about that shit all day on a walk. It's great. But what eventually emerges out of all of this is that men, as you know from being in circles with men, given the opportunity to share a little bit, men will. And given once the door is open to that and you begin to trust the men around you, you can talk about stuff. And if you allow me, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Tell a story.
We had a man show up, and I'm going to limit the details about him, but he's a younger man. He has a couple of kids. His partner got a big job in New York. So he's a consultant. He does a lot of work, but he's the primary caregiver for his kids, and he's not going into an office every day anymore. And he came on the walk, and that morning I had something happen in my life, and I said, do you mind if I share something? And Mark Weidman was there with us. And I said, I had a knockdown drag out this morning with my wife, Saliha. And I feel sick to my stomach. I have a lot of shame. I'm kind of disgusted with myself. I don't know why I got angry. I don't understand my response to it now. I don't know why I have so much shame. Why don't I just say, hey, it was a fight, make it right and move on. But the one thing I do know is I can't walk with you guys and just not say anything about it. I want to get it out. I want to get this sense of sickness in my body out.
Yeah.
I want to share it. And that man was walking with us, and he said a couple of things to sort of offer to help me, maybe move past it. And then he says, my kids are 4 and 7, and I've been getting really, really angry at them lately. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I feel like I'm stuck at home. I feel like there's just so much that has to be done to take care of them. And I feel cut off from everybody else. And what Mark and I said, our kids are in college now. We said, hey, brother, we've been there. You're not alone in that. I mean, there are days when my
Yeah.
my kid was younger, and I was kind of the primary caregiver for
Yeah.
quite a while for him.
Yeah.
I said, there's a couple hours every week where parenting is just too hard. It's too much. It's too difficult. I hate it. And so don't feel bad about that. But the other thing I said to him was, the problem with this is you can't really say this to your partner who's working 60, 70-hour weeks. You can't really say this to the other moms at the PTA, but brother, you can say it here. You can speak the unspeakable here. And that's the beauty of those walks. And that guy, when I see him now, I see his struggle reflected in me and my struggle reflected in him. And he's my friend and he's in the neighborhood. And everything else about wherever I see him, any room, space, part of the park, whatever, that whole world just gets a little better for me. I'm a little bit happier to be there.
Yes. And there's something in the emotional impact and emotional effect, right? That even that one neighborhood, and even you said in our conversation before, now when you walk past that building, you could say, yeah, I know a guy in that building.
I got a friend who lives there.
I got a friend who lives there. And there's an expansion of trust. There's an expansion of grace in the world, just in the act of that happening, right? It opens us up.
I believe that we have been living so long in a world where, as boys, we had these close friendships because we talked every day at school and we did all this communicating and connecting, and we loved our friends so much. And then, there's plenty of evidence that the culture of masculinity we live in sort of says now, no more of those friendships. Instead, you got to compete with each other. You got to do this dominance hierarchy and slug it out and rat race and all of that. And we get disconnected from friendship. Naomi Way's research talks a lot about this. Her book, Deep Secrets, boys in early adolescence say, I love my best friend. Without my best friend, I'd go crazy. By late adolescence, they're disengaging from those friendships because the culture of masculinity has told them over and over again, if you need friends, you're either a little kid, girly, or gay. That's in her research.
Yeah.
So the boys are disconnecting by late adolescence. My best friend lives around the corner. I don't see him that much anymore, that kind of stuff. And their suicide numbers become 4 times that of girls their age. So we break connection in boys. We teach them that to want this warmth and love is somehow not masculine, not acceptable. And so we lost all of that. And the idea that we can just re-enter into that kind of friendship is just, it never occurs to us because the whole culture is giving us that message all the time. But this is a black hole. This is a big, empty loss in us that we carry all the time. And MKP does wonderful work in creating that connection between men. But this separate idea that we can also just have friendships in our neighborhood, the friends I make here, they're not MKP brothers.
Yeah.
One might be who's reached out and may be showing up soon. But these are just men who understand that they want friendship. And the degree to which I'm not the leader.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who's done men's work so I can facilitate. It's not, none of that is happening. These guys all have natural intuitive capacities for managing connection, for creating, warmth and human storytelling and all that. And it just emerges, and we're all equals. Everyone is the expert of on their own lives and their own experiences. And we're just walking along talking. And that idea, Boysen, that everything around you just gets better. I think this is what the research tells us about men's health if we have a circle of close friends.
Yes.
It dramatically changes our outcomes in terms of heart disease and all the rest. And if it's having that effect on our physical bodies, imagine our sense of well-being, our sense of emotional and mental health. So this is it. I'm telling every man listening, if you have ever thought, I wish I had some friends in the neighborhood, just do this thing. It's not, we have a form letter on the website. If you want to come to walkingtalkingmen.org, there's a few resources. Like, here's the rules we're using. You can use them or not. Here's a little, this is what I posted. It has a little bit of data on social isolation, but it's yours. It's your chance to just have some men show up and hang out and talk. The guys in Santa Barbara had a ton of people show up. And in that community, they're all older. They're like 55, 65, 70. In LA, my friend Jonathan Jacobs started up. He had 22 guys show up a week ago at his second walk. Men will come out of the woodwork, and they're in your own neighborhood. Mark Weidman and I have been having coffee for 3 years. We were having coffee a couple months ago down, and we've done about 10, 12 walks now since November. We're in this coffee shop with glass windows having coffee, and Ben comes in. He's like, "Hey, I saw you guys through the window. Can I come in? Can I hang out?" And I was like, yeah, why don't you do that? Because it just doesn't happen, right? And now it will.
Yeah. We can media, movies, plays. I'm thinking of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm thinking of like the way that these fictional worlds are created, where it's you go and you open up the corner store, you're opening up the bodega, and the friend comes in and they talk, and you've known each other all your lives, and everything like swirls around. But it's mythical mostly.
Oh yeah,
for most of.
Why do you think Friends is such a popular show? Right. There's this apartment of people bursting in the doors all the time, right?
And the coffee shop where people are in. Yeah, all of it's happening. But we put it out there instead of pulling it in.
Well, I believe that the culture breaks connection for us. Yeah. And then this social media thing over the last 15 years is selling connection back to us as clicks and likes and Zoom calls and whatnot. And I know important things happen in Zoom calls and whatever, but what I'm saying is social media. I mean, I go back to the Coca-Cola commercial, in the 70s. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And we all went, "Oh, love is on my TV." No, love is not on your TV. And love is not on Facebook. And love is not on Twitter. And love is not, that is a thing that may have value in some way or another. But those companies have sold us on the idea that that's enough. And it's not. It's not at all enough. And so we feel restless and uncomfortable and irritable and unhappy, and we start venting online. And those organizations are designed to get us to get triggered and more engaged and clicking and all this stuff. And suddenly we're just doing some nightmare version of Angry Guy, and we're not getting any of our needs met by that. But these friends in my neighborhood, it's like this. If I have this big empty space in my life that's so big and so consistent that I don't even notice it, it's like a warm light comes on. And I realize, oh, this is what it was like back then. And I can do this thing. And I think it's going to solve and address in our own lives a lot of the things that are hurting us at a social level and a political level and all the rest. If men just had friends.
Beautiful. In the Heights was what I was thinking of for Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah. Hey, and I just want to say that may be a real thing. I mean, I think black men may say to us,
"Barbershop,
you guys fucked that all up. We didn't fuck that up. We have
like
friends."
A white dude thing. To me. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I absolutely own the likelihood that it is a white dude thing.
Yes.
But whoever you are who needs a friend, one of the things that I've said multiple times is we put together these organizations and suddenly we're like, yeah, click here and sign up over there. And we're going to get you on an email list, and here's your dues you pay. And look, Mankind Project is a beautiful organization, needs money to do the weekends. I totally support that.
Yes.
But I have told people multiple times, I will not take money from a man who's lonely and just needs a friend. I'll just say, do this thing. It's not mine. It's yours. Go do it. And in that regard, it's a flat organization, totally decentralized, 4 rules if you want them or not. And we're never going to charge anybody any money. We're going to, and I tell men all the time, we're not here for your network. We're not here for your professional identity. We're not here for that stuff's beautiful. Bring it if you'd like. But what we want is you. We want you. We need you. Show up. And when's the last time anybody said to any of us, we just want you?
The silence is actually beautiful, right?
Mm.
When is the last time? We just want you. I thought of a phrase somehow jumped up at me because, right, I've been as a facilitator and a person in men's work and all of this stuff, right? There's this vulnerability.
And thank you for all of that.
There's a vulnerability, right? We teach vulnerability. We invite men to vulnerability. We And yet you said something in our pre-conversation about, well, go back. Tell me about Italians and dinner parties.
Oh, yeah. I have a friend. He's an Italian guy. He's works with my wife at the university and very well educated and all that stuff. He says to me, Americans have fucked up dinner parties completely. Pardon my French. He's just, if we're going to have a dinner party in America, everybody gets their calendars out, and starts checking their schedules. And then we figure out the food we're going to make, and we clean the whole house, and we make this big ordeal out of it. My Italian friend, he's like, yeah, I got some leftover ravioli in the fridge. I'm calling my friend. He's got a bottle of wine. He comes over. We open the Tupperware, microwave it, and talk. It's that simple. And you can call him that afternoon. And the idea that we could have spontaneous, instant community, because that's the right way to do it, that's actually how it should be done, is a little bit lost to us, in our overscheduled, underconnected lives. So for me, that's my goal and I said, my son's playing open mic night at a place here on 86th in Amsterdam tonight. And I just texted Ben. I was like, hey, my son's playing over there. You want to meet at 9:00? He's like, oh, okay. It's like, cool.
We're thrilled to have BetterHelp as a sponsor for the Mankind Podcast. BetterHelp matches you with a licensed therapist for live one-on-one sessions, someone trained to listen, support, and offer helpful insights. If getting one-on-one support feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to betterhelp.com/mankind and get 10% off your first month of therapy.
Let's do that.
So I want to tell you about my reaction, what happened in my body when you said that. And as you were telling me that story earlier and you're going along and the thing, and we have to clean the whole house. And there was a contraction inside of my body because we started the call and I said, I really want this. I really want walking, talking men for me in my neighborhood. And I have acquaintances in the neighborhood. I know a bunch of the guys in the neighborhood by name and say hello to them as I'm walking the dogs and, And I know some of the guys from the gym and like all of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's a domestic vulnerability that's different, right? I'm not walking into their houses and they're not walking into my house. Right. Because then it's the dog hair. and then it's the the judgments. And then it's all of this stuff. When I go out to men's group and go sit in circle, it's like I'm out of my house. There's a level of curation, right? It's a curated experience, but there is something that I need to overcome in myself around creating that kind of domestic vulnerability in my own neighborhood where it's like, my neighbors know that my lawn is not the sexiest lawn in the neighborhood. They all know that. But then there's the dog hair, and that's a whole different level of realness to the
Yeah.
relationship.
Did we care about that in college? No, we didn't care about that in college. But we do now. And the other thing, you mentioned something that's really interesting. You mentioned that you knew some men, by name and hello, how are you? And so on. I had a guy tell me he wanted to start a walk and he knew some guys that might do it. And I said, great, bring those guys on the walk. But the key to this particular endeavor is that you put something
out there
on your local next door or your local Reddit group or whatever, and men show up you've never met. Never. And suddenly you're connected to other worlds in a way that you weren't 5 minutes before that. And it expands your life, not to just, it's great to deepen your relationship with someone who might be an acquaintance that you've known for 5 years. And some of that is happening in our walk. And I had the most beautiful conversation with a man who I've known for years and because of the Jerry work. And you know what that is, gender equity and reconciliation. I'd met him as part of that community.
Yep.
He and I had a walk recently, his second walk to come on. And I told him, I said, man, you have always seemed like you just have it so together. You're just so thoughtful and even keeled. And I said, I don't feel like that at all. I said, I spend most of my time feeling like I've got a monkey in a cage screaming inside my chest. And I'm just trying to calm that shit down and be a person. Right. And I said, and before, not after my men's work and not after doing this walk for a while, me before would have said, he doesn't need a guy like me. He doesn't need a guy.
Yeah,
like me.
right.
I'm too, and he said, yeah, well, I know that screaming monkey. He said, I just had to beat the hell out of it when I was 13 and never let it back up again. But he said, I know that thing. So I've created this air of confidence and capability and level-headedness and kindness and whatever. But he said I feel like it's created a little distance between me and other people. And there was the reflection back, right, to what I was saying. And he said, it feels a little bit like being in a fortress. And I said, or maybe a moat. He said, yeah, a moat, just a little distance. And I said, well, I really appreciate you sharing that. And in that moment, I just stepped across from that version of me that just, no, guy like that doesn't, to we both have things that the other person needs and can benefit from. And it was I'm still feeling that moment now, a couple of weeks after that conversation. And now I love the guy. I just fucking love him, and damned if love isn't there, when we talk in these ways and share. And from now on, when I see him, I'm just like, this neighborhood just got a little more beautiful. The trees and the storefronts and everything just lights up a little bit. And this is so real for me. And I think it can be real for any man who does the walk. The other thing that I tell guys all the time, Boysen, is that I love Mark Weidman. I see these guys, sometimes these new guys, and I'm like, shit, this feels really front loaded. I'm going to have to show up and be present, be open to what's going on. But it feels a little bit like I'm, I got to be here for this. Mark Weidman, I see him and I have no anxiety of any kind. I love that guy. And we've already been through 120 conversations, right?
Yep.
So what I tell men is, Walking Talking Men is great because after 5 walks, you just learn things about guys and it's beautiful. But after 40 walks, after 40 conversations with another man, something very different emerges, something much, much, much more meaningful. And I don't even want to score these two things. They're both meaningful.
Yes.
But this idea that I've seen this guy in different weather, on different days, in different moods, talk about different things, suddenly any of the concern about, I need to be present to this, it all goes away and you just have this sense of love. You're like, I know this man's story now. He's 25 years younger than me.
Wow.
He's got a different situation, but we know each other. We know each other. And I think that if I was in a crisis, Mark Weidman would take my call at 3:00 in the morning like that. And he wouldn't do it because we all got to carry water for it. He'd do it because he loves me and because I love him. And because one of the things that men forget is that we want to be asked for help. We love that. And when you have friends that you can ask, just, hey, can I share this? Because it's a heavy, they're like, I'm here. Thank you for asking me for that. Because no one ever does. No one ever asks me to carry or make space for them. I know it happens in the men's work, but I'm saying in our daily lives.
Right, yeah. Day to day. So now let's go to, okay, if the obstacles, because when I step outside of our conversation and step outside of our relationship and look at this from the outside, the man box is all over it. All of the things don't do that are so present here. So speak to the, like, what is it that we're asking men to do that the man box is going to be screaming at you to not do this?
Don't do. Yeah, well, Naomi Way tells us you shouldn't need friendships. If you need them, you're a little kid, girl, or you're gay. So it's a very, it's a way of thinking about masculinity that says, I'm cool. I got friends. I got everything handled. I don't need anything. And if you have to ask for friendship, something's wrong with you. Like you're just not. People are dying to be my friend, man. All that energy around competence and capability and I'm already a winner. Thank you very much. Those are the guys that actually are facing these terrible health numbers and these terrible social isolation numbers, because we've been fooled into believing that our individualism, our cult of individualism, our bootstrap, the whole idea that we are absolutely self-reliant flies in the face of everything we know about the science, the biology, and the social understanding of what it means to be in community and what we actually thrive in, right? So, yes, there's going to be a culture out there that says, don't do that. What are you, a dork? You want to walk and talk about your feelings? But when you start a process like this and you put something up on Reddit, the guys who reach out are maybe they're only 10% of the men out there, but they're self-selecting in, right? Yeah. So the men that show up, the strangers you've never met that show up, are part of that germination process, right? Germinating what friendship is like. And then they walk away from that process. Mark Weidman has told me multiple times that our conversations, our friendship has changed his marriage, has changed his relationship with his kids, it's changed my marriage, it's changed my view of where my sense of self and my where I get resourced, right?
Yeah.
I don't just go and expect my wife to deal with all my shit, right? Instead, I bring energy to my wife because I've got this other resource, right? So these men are going to self-select in, but they're going to have ripple effects in their communities, the way that they talk to other men, the way that they connect. So this is, on one level, this is deeply radical. This is deeply radical stuff. And if the Mankind Project, for instance, said, look, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of men who've done the weekend who understand what it means to love another man, to connect, to create this. And they decided they wanted some friends in their neighborhood. Those men are absolutely ready to create that circle of friends and have it be this other thing. It's not men's work. It's not therapy. It's none of that. It's friendship. And if I didn't say already, nobody comes to this as the leader. I did MKP. The other men in my group did not. That doesn't make me the expert. We are all the experts on our own lives. And when we share our stories, we each bring a level of gifted communication that we gift to each other. Nobody's the leader. We've had some interesting stuff come up. Not every man is going to be in the place he needs to be in order to show up and not lean into politics or something. That kind of stuff can happen.
Yep.
But the inquiry gets made. Hey, what's your intention here? We can talk about this for a little while, but what's going on for you with that? And my friend Ben Trustman, I don't know if I highlighted his name or not yet, but Trustman, he's a hydrologist. It's his background, and he shows up on a walk. Another man, Ben talks briefly about an issue he's having with his grown son, and that man criticizes his parenting and then criticizes his son. And Ben just stops and says, you just judged me and then my parenting and then judged my son. And he didn't debate him on the point the guy made or any of that. He just said that. And the guy went, And that level of emotional intelligence and relational intelligence, just right there. You don't debate the guy on the issues he's raising. You just say, hey, that's a judgment. What are you doing? And that's MKP stuff all day long, right?
Yeah.
But we have so many gifted people in the world that will show up and be part of these walks and carry. I didn't need to step in. I didn't even know what to say. Ben did.
Yeah.
I was like, motherfucker, what are you, and so it's a great thing. And we are all equal partners in it, because that's what friendship groups are. They're just, it's not so complicated as we try to make the world.
I'm so totally inspired by this. And I love the idea that when I get out of the way and put myself into situations where I trust that men's brilliance and gifts are actually going to show up, because men's emotional lives and wisdom just run so deep.
Yeah.
And you just got to create the spaces for it to come out. And I love seeing that. And I'm going to frame this. So now I'm going to go back to traditional male roles. Protect, provide, be strong. All right. So you having a circle of friends that you can walk the streets with creates a protective layer for you, for your family, for your relationships. You having a circle of friends that you can walk with creates a level of provision that you just spoke to it, that you can bring back to everybody that you interact with. You are able to provide something new, something deeper, something more.
Yeah.
And strength. What takes more strength than stretching yourself out, right? That's what we get trained out of when we're boys. We have these incredibly loving, vulnerable relationships with our friends. And then we get it beaten out of us and pretend that that's strength. Now, that's just loneliness. That's just isolation, self-punishment.
And conformity to a very narrow set of rules about how to do the thing, which is being a man.
So I wanted to talk to you because I know I'm committed to doing this. I know that there are other guys in the Mankind Project who have already started doing this or have been doing other things. I know that we have some compatriots over the pond who are already doing these kinds of things. So walkingtalkingmen.org, this is me making a commitment that I'll be doing this in my city and neighborhood. And if you feel inspired like me, good listener, maybe you could too.
It's like Christmas morning, man. I can't put enough. And the great thing is it's not because of me. It's because of you. Whoever does the walk, it's you. It's your Christmas for you. And I got nothing to do with it. I didn't All I said was put something on Facebook or next door. That's all I did. That's all I'm ever going to do. Right. But oh my God, it's like a glass of water to a man in the desert that is right there. And the other men that show up, we all know we want this thing, and we're so happy when we find it. We're like, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? What? And so I invite any man to not think, because men are sick and tired of being roped into organizations and marketing campaigns and all this bullshit. This is a simple thing, and keep saying it to yourself. Friends for me in my neighborhood. Friends for me in my neighborhood. Mark Greene, he's got friends for himself in his neighborhood. And if I ever go to Mark Greene's neighborhood, I might email him and say, hey, can I come on a walk? And I'd be like, yeah, come on over. But this is not about me. It's not about our logo. It's not about our website. Those are just simple resources. You may never come back to those things. I may never know if men are doing walks. I may never know. Let me know. It's cool. Oh, that's great. I'll put your little city and state and your email address on the site, and people can come find you. But other than that, that's it. That's, do it.
Mark Greene, thank you. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, Boysen.
Next time on a Tuesday, right? I got to get to New York on a Tuesday to go for a walk with you.
Yeah, but I think we might start doing Saturdays too. But Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., we leave from 93rd Street in Central Park West. Any man out there, come on by.
Now you've heard it. Now you're invited. Mm-hmm. Come on back and listen.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. And of course, I want to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you make it a heck of a lot easier for us to let men out there in the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if you've been enjoying the music throughout this episode and all of our episodes, check out Jim, Donovan, and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So my friend, pick up the pen and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.